Chris Watkin here with the awesome Heather Staff, who's the co-founder of Spectre. Thanks for joining me today. Spectre is a fantastic piece of kit which helps estate agents with their business generation techniques. Let us assume that they can't afford your platform or don't want to use it. I want you to give me the best business generation techniques for estate agents from the queen of business generation. Talk to me.
Okay. Right, so they're not using Spectre. So, I mean...
Because all Spectre is just that it makes it easier, quicker and faster, which means, again, some agents don't want it quicker, easier and faster. So what you do with hundreds of estate agents, what are they actually doing? Forget the software.
Yeah.
What are they actually doing to generate business?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the specific stuff that I know about rather than business generation as a whole and sort of veer into websites or anything like that. But in terms of what Spectre does, it largely, but not exclusively, helps with second instructions. So ignoring Spectre, our best clients, it all comes down to a systematic approach. So you don't need to use Spectre. You could have a systematic approach and do it manually, although ultimately it would cost you more in time and everything else. But still, you could do it manually. But regularity, so systematically regular contact.
Okay, so again, in plain English terms, you are attacking, wrong word, approaching other estate agents' listings and drip feeding them letters to highlight your services as an estate agent.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. So consistency. So getting in contact. Imagine this is what Spectre is doing, right? Which you could do manually. Finding the addresses of everybody who is most likely to want your services in the near future, whether that's currently on market with another agent, because as we know, over 50% will switch.
Is it? Now, interestingly, Rightmove threw a figure out that 6 in 10 properties sell with the second agent. I was laughed at when I mentioned that figure.
No, that's backed up with our data as well. We did it about a year ago and it was just over 50%, but it may well be 6 out of 10 now.
Okay, 50 to 60%.
Yeah.
So, because everyone says, well, that's not me, I don't. But fundamentally, for the industry, your Rightmove a few years ago said 60%. You say 50% of properties sell with the second agent.
Yeah. And that's been the case over Spectre over the last 5 years. And that number is growing year on year.
It's growing.
It's growing, yeah. And I have my own personal views as to why that is. I think when the market is tough, agents are more likely to say what they need to say to get that instruction. So overvaluing, promising the world. And then, many agents inevitably underdeliver, when they ask for a price reduction, when it doesn't sell, all of that sort of stuff. So the reason why Spectre, or if you're doing this sort of stuff manually, works is because if you have missed out on that first instruction, that is often to an agent that is going to struggle to deliver what they've promised. So you have to keep in contact with these people because so many of them will switch. So in your typical market, imagine you've got this beautiful database of people who are most likely or significantly more likely than a random property in your area to want/require your services. And there's things as well in Spectre, but also you could do it manually where you're keeping track of properties that have withdrawn from the market without selling. So we cross-check against the land registry to make sure they haven't been sold privately, but you could, again, do that manually. And keep in contact with those people because they are significantly more likely to come back to the market than a random property on a random street. So this is targeted marketing.
How often, do you know how long, if a property gets withdrawn off the market and doesn't sell, have you got any data on what percentage come back onto the market?
I don't off the top of my head, but I could find out because we will have it. Within 12 months, that's what you'd really want to know.
Yes, that would be an interesting step because obviously the lowest hanging fruit are obviously properties on the market with other agents. Then the next one is withdrawals. Okay, so let's work on the assumption that most sold agencies are 12 weeks. How often do we need to be sending letters to these people?
So I would say always send a new instruction letter, which goes against what you might think because you might think, well, I'm not going to switch, they've only just come onto the market. But if you can send a very softly letter that says, hello, here we are, welcome to the market. If we can help you buy in the area, why not register your details? Yeah, you got your brand under their nose on day one. It's a very nice introduction to you and your business, particularly if you haven't been out and valued before. And so you've made that good impression on day one. At this point, obviously, they're going to be extremely positive and enthusiastic about what's going to happen.
So you don't want anything there like hire an estate agent, oh, well, it's this big and we're brilliant and we're marvellous. It's softly.
No. Although we do have some clients that do stress the 14-day cooling off period. So you could go aggressive or you could go softly. I would say softly.
Okay.
Then you probably want maybe 1 or 2 or possibly 3 letters before the end of the sole agency agreement. And what I would do as an agent is look at who your main competitor is or your largest competitor. When is their sole agency agreement? Because obviously it's different around the country. And I would be writing 2 weeks before that a sole agency agreement ends, when it ends, and 2 weeks later. So the frequency of your letters should ramp up around that time. And you could possibly mention that they'll be out of contract or they may be out of contract or, all of this point. The important thing to remember here is it's actually at this point normally better for the consumer, for the client to switch agents. It's better for them to take it off at 12 weeks, give it a bit of a breather and put it back on with another agent because they're probably more likely to get a better result than to be asked the question, well, why have you been on the market for so long? So it's actually in their best interest to do this. So you want to sort of politely, softly, I would still say softly, point out that, there could be a better way.
Okay, what happens if you send the 3 letters and don't get anything? Do you continue to send letters?
Absolutely. So over 75% of all Spectre successes comes from the 5th letter onwards.
So there, a huge learning is that it's better to hit one property many times than lots of properties once.
Definitely. I mean, if I would start with a small area, make sure your strategy is correct. And, we have our customer success team is amazing and they are literally ready and waiting to tell you everything that we know about how these things work. We have the luxury of being able to see the return on investment for thousands of agents across the country. So we know what works. We know what content works. We know what frequencies work.
Okay, so frequency, lots, weight it towards just before or just after the...
Yeah, so these are your time-based triggers.
Okay, and then you need to send at least 5. What about the content of the letter itself?
Well, I would also add you want activity-based triggers as well. So things like price reduction, fall through, withdrawal, obviously. What we added recently, which has been even more successful than the reduction letter, is things like 3 weeks post-reduction or 4 weeks post-reduction. So when they've done that reduction, they're obviously pretty hopeful. Things are going to change.
Downer, okay.
Exactly. So they're going to be really peak annoyed 3 or 4 weeks post-production. So I would definitely send one of those triggers.
What about the content of the letters?
Content is everything. So this is one of the things that, if I could shout this from the rooftops, I always would. But ultimately, you are going to the effort, either manually or via Spectre or whatever, of getting these letters to the right people at the right time. What it says is down to you, the agent. And what it says is the most important factor because this is your one chance to get your message across. There's various forms of marketing, all of which have their merits, and I get that. A lot of it's brand recognition, board exposure, all of that, all valid. But a letter, you are getting a message across. So that letter has got to be perfect. Every letter you send has got to be perfect and relevant to the situation that they're going through at that time. Make sure it looks personal, like somebody in that branch has taken the time and the effort to write to you in particular.
So that include signing it properly?
Yeah, you can do it electronic signatures, but do it in a different colour, or print them off and hand sign them, or, one of my pet peeves is like barcodes on letters. As soon as you open a letter and it's got a barcode slapped on it, you know that it's from a print house and it's not, reference the property, reference the price that it's on at, reference the fact that you know that they've been on the market for 12 weeks. All of these things help to show that you are writing to them specifically and you're not just...
So, target the properties, hit them with at least 5 letters, focusing towards the end, make the content relevant and interesting and as unique and as close to the person that you're talking to, and you'll be on a winner.
Yeah.
Because at 50 or 60% of properties sell with a second agent. You've heard it here from the queen of business, estate agency business generation. Thank you, Heather. You've been an absolute star.
Cheers, Chris.